On the 31st of December 2021, Cameroon's president, Paul Biya, announced the creation of 3 state universities in the east, in the north, and also in the south. President Biya also announced that those who also encourage the effective use of social media platforms and debunk the massive use of fake news circulating on social media. Cameroon's head of state, President Biya, also announced that Cameroonians in their different fair will be welcoming African nations ahead of the 2022 African Cup of Nations, and that at this end the government is well prepared. So far, with the announced creation of 3 state universities and also the announcement of charges on those who have contributed in collecting illicit money in the state, is it a sign of a new beginning of Cameroon 2022? Is it a sign that those who we have been clamoring for as far as COVID-19 funds is concerned, as far as embezzlement of AFCON funds is concerned, is it a sign that the head of state actually do listen to the cries of so many Cameroonians for those to be brought to justice? This is House of Commons. We meet Tah Mai Javis. You're welcome back, and Happy New Year to all those of you watching us from the different parts of the world, and Cameroon in particular. This is our first edition for 2022. We want to appreciate all those of you who have been commenting on our program positively or negatively. We want to say it is a moment where we must come together as a people, say thank you, and be tolerant with one another, because God is love and love is God, and we must also respectfully disagree to agree, and with one voice respect the Anglo-Saxon culture where respect is given to our elders. Here in the studio to discuss on the topic of today, we have 2 people in the studio and 2 online who will be joining us to discuss on the announcement of the creation of 3 state universities. Senior Barrister Archu Julius, it is a privilege to have you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Mr. Tah Javis. Happy New Year to my lone co-panelist in the studio. I will seize this opportunity equally to wish Happy New Year to the head of state and his lovely family, to the Prime Minister of this country, because them don't mean say they don't have these opportunities to listen to somebody wishing a Happy New Year. I wish Happy New Year to our Secretary General of the CPDM, to the Prime Minister, as I said, and to the Minister of State in charge of Justice and Higher Education, because those are people who have some sort of affected all our lives during the past year. And not forgetting the governor of the Littoral region, the SDO of the Vuri, and our DO in Bonaberi, especially accompanied with the Lord Mayor of the Douala 4th District, which is Bonaberi equally. And I would like to wish a Happy New Year to this Media Plus employees and the studio, and this President General, Mr. Tambe, who has been so instrumental in the life of Cameroonians the past year. And I'm wishing him well that the coming 2022 should be better than 2021.
Thank you very much, Senior Barrister Archu Julius. And also in the studio, Song Derick, Happy New Year, and thanks for joining us.
Happy New Year, Tah Mai Javis. It's a pleasure to be here. Happy New Year to the suffering population of the Anglophones, especially those from Belo, Fundong, and Jinicom. Happy New Year to Barrister Archu Julius, whom we are here to discuss educative talks. Of course, Happy New Year to my Media Prime, especially the founder, Mr. Tambe Brian, the Managing Director, Mr. Clement, Bo Elvis, and of course to you, Javis. It's been a pleasure. We thank my Media Prime in a very special way for the voices they have given us to be heard by the world. And of course, we pray that God should increase them from grace to grace. Most importantly, Javis, Happy New Year to my family, especially my lovely mother, and wife.
Thank you very much. Senior Barrister Archu Julius, I begin with you. It's been a difficult 2021 and we hope for a better 2022 across the world, because the world has been rocked with pandemic of COVID-19 and also which has greatly affected the economy of the world, and Cameroon is not indifferent to that effect. The head of state, His Excellency President Biya, announced the creation of 3 additional state universities. When you follow the head of state speech, and especially when many at the time they were saying that nothing good can come out from this speech, but the head of state surprised many this time around by announcing the creation of 3 state universities, and also talk tough on embezzlement and that people...
He doesn't handle micro issues. He deals with the macro issues, and from the macro issues, everybody knows that the micro will flow, which is automatic. You know, when he started his speech with this issue about COVID, and we know this is a pandemic that has rocked the world for the past 2 years. From what he said, I gather Cameroon has been very, very up to the task to combat this pandemic. And he said it's not the first time in the world that we'll be having such a pandemic. And it is only when nations come together that we can jointly combat something that affects the whole world. Individually, it's not possible. And he was actually happy with the fact that our international partners collaborated a lot with us for us to face this pandemic that has brought the world economy to its knees. It continued by, first of all, thanking our military for the peace efforts and the protection of our integrity, national integrity, that they've been doing so well. It said he's very happy equally that his own peace initiative that he offered to both the Boko Haram and the time will do some sort of a balanced infrastructure investments. Balance in the sense that all regions have to have almost the same facilities, so in order that some regions should not feel as if they've been neglected or relegated to the second role. And emphasis was laid especially on universities, because the Minister of State in charge of higher education has been up to the task to reform our university systems. And the way the universities function, it is some sort of a cause for jealousy. It is not just but normal that other regions would like to have state universities in their regions. At
least it solved the problem of University of Biya not moving to and the branch not moving to Akonolinga.
That's not even the issue, because people didn't understand what it meant by opening a branch of University of Biya in Akonolinga. It doesn't move the university anyway. It is just the franchise which we use in a different time.
Yeah, we understand.
Just unlike all the universities around Cameroon,
we understand.
They use the franchises of all the state universities.
We understand that it doesn't, but you know, with what has been happening in Northwest and Southwest, where things are moved to the other side, people have that fear. It's normal for them to have that fear that probably what we are witnessing in the structures moving to other regions, that going there and not coming back. You will not refuse them from having that fear. They say once beaten, twice shy.
No, when you talk about fear in itself is not an issue, because if at the end of the day what you are afraid of doesn't come to fruition, you find yourself embarrassed by being afraid of something which you don't even know the consequences. To me, it doesn't matter. We have universities here in Douala that are using the franchise from the University of Biya. It has changed nothing. That was just the sense in which the guys in the Bolova wanted to do, and I'm sure they're still on the project. What we talk about English-speaking schools all over Cameroon? Will you say no, English-speaking schools should be limited only to the Northwest and Southwest regions? No, but you see, you should understand that there are people speaking English in the Bolova. You should understand that, and like the English, the Anglo-Saxon system of education in the Bolova. If they like it, why can't they apply for it? Are they not Cameroonians like you and me?
Senior Barrister Archu Julius, the fear they have is that, for example, when structures are moved to Yaoundé or other areas from West Cameroon or Northwest and Southwest, there's always that tendency where it goes and stays. And that these people are still afraid that, hey, because the conflict is ongoing somehow, we are afraid that maybe they may end up closing the University of Biya, that Akonolinga is functioning. But it's just a fear. But it is not bad to be too protective too.
No, why should you fear? You're afraid of what? Are we not confident enough that the Anglo-Saxon University is strong enough to stand its salt? What are you talking about? Nobody can shake that university. It's the toughest university in Cameroon if you don't know. For information, the University of Biya.
That's why they are being protective. That's why they are
You can't touch it. But everybody would like to use his franchise.
Okay.
Because the foundation was well placed, well done, and everyone sees the way it's growing, and everybody is jealous. Everyone likes to be like, everyone likes to resemble Biya University.
Of course, I agree with you on the issue of franchise, because we have other universities who have diversified their franchise system, where we have universities who have moved to Budwala, but they are still based in Biya.
Yes.
So that one is not my bet.
If you look at the diploma, the issue, it is signed by Biya University.
Yes.
So I don't see any problems in moving university. It's not moving university as such, but using the franchise of the university elsewhere. There are foreign universities that have franchises in Cameroon.
Yes.
How do you explain that? But when you talk about structures or infrastructures, you can't move infrastructures. The thing is that in universities, those involved are supposed to develop the university. Private individuals are supposed to be involved. The government is supposed to be involved. The mayor is supposed to be involved. The lecturer is supposed to be involved. If you don't do that, you don't have a strong base to have a university. And that's why that's why you see the basis of Biya was very solid, and everybody was jealous of it, and everybody wants it.
Okay. Son Derick, the head of state announced the creation of 3 state universities. Is it not a sign that at least we are decongesting universities across the nation, where a lot of parents used to spend more to send their kids to other regions, but this time around the university is in their fear, especially, for example, when Bamenda was not having a state university, a lot of people used to suffer. But when Bamenda came, now many parents from Widikum, all these areas, had the opportunity now to have their kids study within their locality. With the creation of this, announced creation of these 3 state universities, it's another sign that the head of state is paying emphasis on education.
Thank you very much, Javis, for that question. Contrary to what Barrister says, I want to think the head of state does not understand his country, rather. You know, creation of university is not a bad idea. It's a very good and laudable idea. The question is, which kind of universities are we creating, and for what kind of education? We need to fix what we already have in the process of creation. But don't be too excited, Javis, about the creation or about the presidential speech that talks about the creation. We all know that majority of public schools in Cameroon were created through presidential decree. We should not be very excited, because our president is that president who is so fast to say things but they never come to fruition. That one, it's something we've witnessed. We would have also expected him to evaluate those things he has always told us, like the roads, the ring roads, like the Olembe complex, which was to be a complex that is now still inaugurated as an incomplete start. And we should look at other things. We know that the creation of this university is just going to create more of job seekers, because we are still going to have lecturers that are politically motivated rather than lecturers that are creative in mind. And do not be surprised that this same university that the president has talked about, it may still come to fruition only in 2035, when Cameroon plans to emerge, because we are used to the pragmatics of playing with people's psychology. Javis, you will bear with me that, like I said, from the presidential speech of this year, if you take away the most important thing he said, which is the reduction of the importation of goods and increase in the export. If you take away CAN, the African Cup of Nations, the president said nothing again.
Are you saying, a quick one, you said the universities created or that exist?
University of Biya, where you have 700 students for JMC in the class in front of one single lecturer. How does the teacher get to know your problems, your individual problems?
We have more than one lecturer per course now. We had lecturers per. No. There you are now saying it's my own field. I studied journalism. We had a lecturer for news writing. We had a lecturer for audiovisual. We had a lecturer for video editing, audio editing. We had
those not courses. Are those not courses?
In one course, we had about 3
Javis,
lecturers.
I am not. I didn't,
on specific.
Please.
Maybe that can go for other subjects, but not journalism.
Will you permit me to talk?
Yes, of course, I will.
I didn't say that there was just one lecturer for journalism or JMC.
Per course.
I'm talking about course.
And I'm talking about
in front of one lecturer, you have 500 children or 500 students. How do you get to understand the problems of those children? How do you get to understand what a particular child has as a difficulty? The lecturers will come and sit and stand and just talk and go. And like I said, my problem too is that we have a problem.
Okay, right on. I cannot get you from the studio. I'll play that our technician get our feedback. But Happy New Year to you. Just maybe our technical team is working on us getting your return signal. But if you can just put your device on auto rotate, and so that it can take a landscape, put your device on auto rotate so that it can take a landscape, it will be better. So that you can put it on auto rotate. Derick, let me continue with you before moving to Barrister. You also talked about the fact that we are having political motivated lecturers. And first, I want to still continue with the aspect you raised, because a lot of people who have just sent messages now say you're attacking the foundation in which most Cameroonians went through, especially yourself. When you talked about half-baked, it means that us journalists who went through University of Biya, who are doing well with awards left and right, we are all half-baked. And means that you are telling us that the same system that helped train you is a half-baked system. Thus, by philosophy, you are half-baked.
Yes, I'm half-baked if you want me to chemistry and physics, but there's nothing you can do as components. That they will teach you all about engineering, computer, but you have never seen or dismantled a computer. You are telling me it was a complete system. That you finish the university and you apply for a job, perhaps when we are teaching, we are being taught more of English language, and they start asking you in the field, do you know computerized accounting? It is then you know that there is a form of, how come our university separated the computer from the accounting, given that there is no clear cut between that. So when I say that the system was half-baked, we should, for instance, I'm taking a field of accounting where I think when you do accounting, you should be able to enter a company and the company gives you the books to generate financial statement. But we have children, we have students who can balance all balance sheet on pieces of papers, but will never do it when the screen is presented or the softwares are presented. How was it not possible? Because you had a mixture of management, accounting, banking students who were almost 1,000 in class, and you have one lecturer for a course. That lecturer will not even asking me the question that I've answered, that like the ring road in Bamenda. We are still waiting for modalities. Are you still waiting for? We are still waiting for the president.
Okay.
We are still waiting. Like the university, we will keep waiting. Let me tell you, like Cameroon is, we are very good at celebrating speeches. We celebrate what people say, but in the field, when rigor and moralization came, or when the policy of rigor and moralization was announced, which everybody celebrated, today, where is rigor? Where is moralization?
But this is the moralization.
When emergence, when Cameroon of greater expectation, great ambition was announced, today, where is the ambition? We are busy with the guns in the street. You are telling me that universities will be created. Are we not having more pressing problems in Cameroon?
I don't know if any of our Skype, Ngalah, if Bernard, if you're on. Mr. Ngalim?
Can you hear me, Javis?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, Javis, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Happy Sunday to you and Happy New Year.
Thank you very much for having me, Javis. Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to the rest of the panelists. President appoints every person at the university. It defeats the very essence of education. And that is one of the reasons for which you would say that no Cameroonian university features amongst the first 100 universities in the world, in Africa. And this is very simple, because what you put in is what you get out. You cannot put in administrative and political education and expect to get out substantive scientific output. Without trying to go too far, let's look at what the COVID-19 has taught us. The COVID-19 has taught us that Cameroonian universities are not up to the task scientifically to manage tests, to manage. They don't have laboratories. They don't have any way to come out even with preventive treatment. The best we had from Cameroon was Archbishop Clement Samuel with his treatment. So, where is the medicine? Where is the scientific research in the medical field in Cameroon? Next, we can even talk about the construction of all the stadia that I hear everybody singing praises about, constructed by foreign companies, controlled missions, foreign companies. We may be thinking that this is all about science and technology. It's irrelevant at this point. What President Paul Biya should have been doing is reorganizing, not even reorganizing, evaluating what has happened, how those universities are functioning, and then bring up remodified strategies. I don't think the problem is the number of universities that you have, it's how effective the universities that you have are.
But Mr. Ngalim, will you agree with us that the state universities is not what used to partake in the 90s, or in the late 2000s. There have been some restructuring of state university and a certain level of autonomy per faculties and per department. A case in hand, the University of Biya, which has been very practical and pragmatic. You talked about COVID-19. The University of Biya teaching the faculty of social health science actually played a key role in creating test kits and also testing people in Biya, especially also when it comes to other medical sciences. The Faculty of Health Science in Biya has played a key role in the health sectors of the people in Southwest region and Cameroon as a whole. Will you for sure not say that, how can you for sure say that these universities from them where we have practical issues? For example, even in the field of journalism per se, we now have the radio, the Chariot Radio 93.5, we have the Chariot Television in Biya, and even in Bamenda, we also have the campus radio that gives people these practical modalities. Even the field of geology in the University of Biya, some modalities have been done so far.
Yeah, Jarvis, one thing is we can go to the university and read the text, right? Read what people wrote in the 1960s and before 1967, because that is how our libraries are, pre-1960 stuff. Yeah, we can read them. We can say we have those universities that are doing this. But what is the output of these universities? I know people like Barrister Archu are going to tell me COVID-19 surprised the world. Many countries don't have any headway going forward. But the point is, if your universities are competent enough to send out practical people with a lot of practical knowledge, we should be able to target our problems by ourselves. In his speech, Paul Biya made allusion to COVID-19 not as indigenous solutions, but he kept on relying on foreign solutions. That is where the problem is. The testing done by the University of Biya, as you say, was done with equipment manufactured abroad and imported. None of those equipment, none of the chemicals whatsoever used are manufactured in Cameroon. That is where the problem is.
Okay.
What have Cameroonian universities been producing? That is the fundamental question. What have they been producing? Get to the construction of roads. Every construction company, most construction companies come from abroad. Whoa. Get to the construction of dams. They come from abroad.
But at least those who work with these contractors, those who work with these contractors are Cameroonians that at least we help in maneuver, help in mixing, help in other things, and also we get employment in the accounting.
No, that is where the problem is. What are the universities producing? Coming up to the university with a first degree is not the essence. The essence is, what is that paper going to produce?
Okay.
And I bet you the universities he's saying that he's going to create will get on talking about law, history, literature. That is
you are speaking of
in the world of today. We should talk about science and technology. I remember when people of Bamenda were asking for the university, everyone was asking for University of Science and Technology. But the first faculties to be created there were law, political science, history. These don't help us. I studied law, so it shouldn't be as if I am not appreciative of my discipline of study, but it doesn't help the world progress. Thank you, Javis.
Thank you very much. Ms. Ngalah, are you there with us? Can you hear us? But I can't get you. I don't know what's happening at your own end. I can't get you. I don't know if a technical team can confirm. Okay. Yes, you can get me now. Okay, right on. What university should meet the specificity and peculiarity of the nation and people in this region?
Well, I consider my co-panelist, Mr. Song, and Mr. Ngalah as prophets of doom, in the sense that they don't longer believe in whatever is not theirs. It's only what they think is best for everybody, and what some other person says is very bad and will never work. If you see the evolution of Cameroon University from 1962 to present date, the universities we have in 1962 are not the same we have today. Whether you like it or not, so much has happened, so much has evolved. We are not in a paradise where things ought to be perfect, but I can tell you that the perfection in Cameroon, when it comes to our university is up to 85%. And you have that type of percentage when it comes to the global average, global calculation of what these universities produce in Cameroon. It is very, very satisfactory. The head of state is not there to tell you opening a university of science and technology. The appropriate structure, because he's outsider and looking at it. Just like the gentleman from the US. He's in the US, maybe he's gone to university in the US, and he wants to compare their standards, which started 200 years ago with us, which is those since 1962. But in any case, I don't compare grapes and oranges. I compare oranges. In Cameroon, we are Cameroonians, so let's compare our oranges. Whether you like it or not, the literacy rate and the standard of education in Cameroon is one of the best in Africa. I don't want to go into grading universities or whatever, but what we have on the substance, the output. All Cameroonians that leave university and go elsewhere, they bloom. They're on top. Most Cameroonians are on top everywhere they go after leaving universities. I'm sure it's because the competition is so high in Cameroon that my learned friend is not feeling it. He cannot come on top, that is worried. Oh, the guy who went to the US, he ran away from Cameroon. The challenges here to go and do what he's doing over in the US, and maybe he's on top there. But in Cameroon, I'm telling you, the challenges here, when it comes to education, is very high. If you're not on top of it, you can never get nowhere. He talked about political lecturers. Why is he infringing on rights of people? If I want to be a political lecturer, what's my problem? What is your problem in it? Am I not lecturing my students? I don't lecture them. If I want to do my politics, my politics. You see, learn to respect the right of another person. If you don't if you can't respect the right of another person, why should you respect yours? Leave it like that. Our universities are up to. And let me tell you something. Even in the US, the state universities are still one of the best, as compared to private universities. And everything there has a hierarcy. It comes from the government. It doesn't come from the locals alone. It comes from the government. If there's no impulse from the top, it doesn't reach the bottom. What do you like? Because state universities are like that all over the world. In Cameroon, we are lucky that the president gets even interested in what happens in universities. In some other countries, the presidents are not even interested. You see, most of the guys living in military, those guys who live in the military academy become heads of states. You will never even hear them talk about universities. You will never. Why? It's because we have a head of state that thinks about everything that goes on in this country. Everything. And let me tell you again, and let me repeat. A president doesn't handle micro issues. A president handles macro issues.
That's why there's a Minister of State and Minister of Higher Education.
It gets presidents like you and me to do the rest. So if the rest doesn't do their job, well, he's partly responsible, but he can only work with Cameroonians to do it. He cannot take foreigners to come and do it for you and me.
Okay.
The other guy talked about about the Lompang. He worked in Lompang and realized that decision making, where Cameroons were involved in decision making, why does he know? In any case, you should understand that we took a loan, and once you're taking a loan, you have to toe the line of the person giving you the loan.
Comes with the conditions.
It gives you conditions, and until you accept, it's okay. I'll go for it. And you go for it.
And
you can't relate from your obligations. You have to respect the obligations and follow them to the letter. If Cameroon signed for that, all Cameroonians are waiting for is a Lompanga working. We don't care how it came about, because you and me will never for corruption. Just to tell you that it is not easy. It is very difficult to determine what corruption is and how to punish it.
Okay. Mr. Ngalah, excuse
Javis,
me, I'm coming back to you. Let me try to get Mr. Ngalah. We have not had him at least for even his 2 minutes. Mr. Ngalah, are you there with us? I don't know if Mr. Ngalah is there. Mr. Ngalah, are you there with us? I'm sure we... Are you there? We are having some technical difficulties getting to Mr. Ngalah. You wanted to react.
Yes, Javis. You know, when the barrister is speaking, it's funny to me. When you say we are prophets of doom, that's how the CPDM regime sees anybody who doesn't agree with.
Now in CPDM, right?
Yes, yes.
You bring in CPDM.
You're
in which party?
Yes.
He was
I'll talk. You're in which party?
Yes.
Let me talk intellectual. No. When you leave school and you still behave like man on the street, I don't understand
Barrister,
you guys.
Look, see,
we are talking about...
Barrister, really allow you to talk.
We are not talking about CPDM.
Barrister,
talk.
Can you senior barrister?
I did
Senior barrister.
I don't
then you talk about the party.
Senior barrister. Senior barrister.
You not bring a party and a regime.
Yes.
Is that what you want?
Senior barrister.
Is that what you learn?
Senior barrister.
Or that what you learn in university?
Senior barrister.
Let him that.
Senior barrister. Let him that.
You cannot speak. You should shut up.
No, senior barrister. Some Derick. Make your point. Your point. Make your point.
You are always insulting. You want us to insult each other?
No. It's okay. Senior barrister.
Because you will not.
Senior barrister. It's okay. Please, can we calm down?
You are a better prophet of doom here. Because
let us say that.
Yes, you are a better prophet of doom.
Yes. Because his problem is that
no problem.
he's talking about Barrister.
Because I hate people who may.
You hate.
That is. I'm not talking to you in person. I say I hate people who may say
and you are hating
things.
people. And in public, talking in public. Good gracious. What are we doing here?
Where am I heading to? Barrister, allow me to talk.
No, try to be civil. Look, put it in good language. Stop talking about hate.
Barrister, are you going to give me my words?
Okay. No, the issue is something that you two will bear with Barrister. The fact that
when Barrister is telling us here that when Barrister is telling us that universities are in US at 200 years.
Ngalah, can you get us?
Barrister, I don't know.
I know. I want to confirm Ngalah. Ngalah is there.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can get you now. Yes.
You can. Okay, that's great. I've been very like excited to get in the discussion. You know.
Yeah, you have off your video. Your video. Try to switch on your video via Skype.
I don't know how to do this video. Let me see.
You should go on.
Yes, right on.
Interested into universities. I just listened to him and I laughed. Why? Because the president of that country, can you tell me once when in the past 10 years that Mr. Biya stepped his foot in a university campus to check out how things are going? Just once. Just once. That's number one. Number two, can you just tell me once when this president came out from his presidency to go and check out something that was going on in his own project that he was doing? There is none, absolutely. Okay, so these guys, the government is involved in building universities. Can somebody tell me? I heard he was saying that the Cameroon universities are one of the best in Africa. Let's put the 10 best universities in Africa. Where does Cameroon lies?
I'm talking about productive universities.
The 10 best universities in Africa. Is Cameroon? Which Cameroon university appears in one of them? Then you go into, they are creating universities. When you go, you look at they are producing people all the time. They are producing a lot of students, right? What is the population? The population of Cameroon is made up 60% to 70% Europe. He came to Europe when Europe came out of the First World War. when Europe just came out from the First World War. So Mr. Biya with his 2 eyes saw how Europe was completely
you are talking about the Second World War.
And how, yeah, the Second World War. So Mr. Biya saw with his 2 eyes how Europe was completely devastated, broken to the ground, no universities, nothing, right? And then Mr. Biya studied in Europe and came back to Cameroon, and he held a very good position. So if you want to calculate the lifespan of Biya in public life, somebody who has been there, who has seen everything, is over 70 years. It's going to 70 years. So I don't understand the logic that we'll have a president that is sitting there, 80% of youth unemployment. We have one of the poorest universities in Africa. That's a fact. But the thing is,
but at least Mr. Ngalah,
this country that I am in, this country that I am,
yes,
this country that I am in, a lot of Cameroonians who have studied here, and believe me, all of them are doing very good jobs. Some are working with firms that. All right, so let me answer your question, right? Starting with the foreigners coming to study in us, there are a lot of Americans studying maybe in Asia, right? But does it mean that Asia is high up there more than America? No. It's that they have some specific things that they have to study in Asia, right? Then you talk about like our universities are more than Niger. Let me tell you this. In 1986, Cameroon was rated as country, which means that the gross national income was between 1,000 to 12,500 euros. This is the fact about your country, which means that we were supposed to be today in the same par with Brazil, Mexico, and Malaysia, and all of those countries. But where are we today? So how can we start today? How can we compare? You should never ever go so low to compare yourself with Niger, even with Equatorial Guinea.
But these are African countries now. You said you were talking about the worst university in Africa, and these are African countries, which means at least
I said we have one of the worst universities in Africa because we produce something that gives us nothing back.
Are you saying that?
We produce something that gives us nothing back. The students themselves are very bright. But the system in place to make those students be productive is nonsense.
Okay, we'll be coming back to you. So Derick, you wanted to react. Senior barrister problem was that he was not indexing a particular party. He was talking about the structure, but you are indexing a party. And his problem is if you want to index him, not in the party.
Yes, that's why I came back to say he's a better prophet of doom than myself. And I said that. You know, when barrister talks and keeps comparing that we should not compare USA with, which is 200 years with Cameroon. How old is Nigeria? How old is South Africa? How old is Ghana? When we are talking, we keep comparing ourselves with worse people. Why will you compare Cameroon with Niger? Why won't we compare with the best? We are in a world that has evolved. And when someone sits to tell you that you should not compare Cameroon University with United States of America, who are 200 years old. But Nigeria, which is next door, is not 200 years old. Pretoria, Ghana, they are not 200 years old, but they are doing things. They are doing exploit. Like? So when we come to talk, we should think that, listen, we are not in any way saying that Cameroonians are dull or Cameroonians are not bright. We are saying that we have a bright personality that is put in the wrong system, that is put in the wrong molding system. Javis, no matter how intelligent you are and you are doing chemistry, you are doing physics, you will not become the real product you need to be if the resources are not put at your disposal. How do you explain the fact that our universities that train medical doctors for 7 good wasteful years, the ministers do not trust those doctors? They go out of the country for treatment. Barrister, how do you explain it? Is it not because even the system in itself do not trust the resources put in the disposal of those doctors? Maybe so when we are talking, when we are talking, Javis, we should be very clear. The President of the Republic will not go to any local hospital here. He will be flown abroad for treatment. The ministers, same. Why? It is because we have refused to build our own system. And every day we are creating universities that will create more job seekers, will create more frustrated Cameroonians. I think we need to tilt our services towards technical and practical education.
Okay, briefly.
We need to create people who can create jobs. We need to redefine our mentality. We need to teach more of mathematics and physics, more of science than teaching people to come on TV and blow us grammar.
I want to say I've been reading your messages. Keep your messages coming in. Happy Sunday and Happy New Year to you. And Ongene Eric Ngwese, following us somewhere in Cameroon. Happy New Year to you. And Ongene Eric Ngwese. And of course, Happy New Year to all those of you watching our song. Derick, he said, you have doctors been trained 7 wasteful years. But when you get to hospitals, you have been to hospitals, do you care to ask if these are Cameroonian doctors or not? And if they are not Cameroonian doctors, they should not treat you. If they are Cameroonian doctors, they should not treat you. Because I go to hospitals and I'm being taken care of by Cameroonian doctors, those who study in Javis, and those who study
Javis,
in
maybe when
and they do take care of me well. That's why I'm strong.
Javis gets me. When I'm talking of this, say, the amount of money that the ministers, the president pumps out in those other countries in forms of treatment, if it were pumped in,
the system is working, but their problem is that they have decided not to use the same system.
They do not trust what is there. You want me to trust?
Mr. Ngalim.
Yes, sir, Javis.
You wanted to react to what Senior Barrister Archu said.
Yeah, let me just start by saying that I don't think it is appropriate to personalize the conversation on Derick's experiences. Derick is talking from a macro point of view, right? To make us understand that when the president and ministers create an educational system but not depend on the outcome of that educational system, it means the educational system has a fundamental problem. And I agree with Derick. Now, Barrister made some comments that I just think it's necessary to clarify. One of those is that it's inappropriate to compare Cameroonian universities with American universities. I don't find that very correct. American universities are America can be 200 or 1,000 years old, but the reason for which we study history is to learn from our mistakes and from others' mistakes and take the best solutions to avoid mistakes that other people made in the past. So if we want to continue making the same mistakes that Americans made before being where Americans are in 200 years, it means we don't know where we are going to. And that is a very dangerous and wrong strategy. Dangerous and wrong strategy because we encourage mediocrity at the level of decision making. We encourage people not to strive better, but to be comfortable in very obnoxious circumstances, which I don't think is what we should be looking at. We should be looking at advising ourselves from the mistakes of the past, both from our mistakes and from other people's mistakes. So yes, we should compare ourselves with American universities. And it's funny when Barrister says the president does not manage micro things, manages macro. I don't know how macro the appointment of a university rector is. In America, even the minister of education does not appoint university rectors. That is just that is so micro, so tiny. The university decides on its leadership. But in Cameroon, the president appoints the rector, appoints the vice rector, I think even the chancellor, and then the minister appoints the rest. And the American universities have nothing to do with the top-bottom approach. Barrister, that is not correct. In America, the universities are self-organized. They only receive subventions from the central government in financial terms, and they use the money the way they want to use. Of course, there are rules and laws that govern the usage and administration of universities. So that is a very wrong approach or a misconception that should not actually go through. And just talking also about an example I use about Lompanga, if we really had engineers and people who can work on that project. I don't think a project, the foundation stone was laid in 2012, and we're in 2022, 10 years, and the dam is not yet working. This was a 1.5-year project initially. Now we are 10 years on. It is not yet working. No energy has been supplied from Lompanga, meaning there is a problem at that level. So, Barrister, I am not talking from outside. I worked in that project. I don't just want to say the kind of job I was doing there, but I worked on the project. I know what I'm talking about the project. I am not imagining what I know about the project. And my being here is not because Cameroon was difficult for me to kind of burst through. My being here is for personal reasons. And this conception of always thinking that those who have left Cameroon are escaping from something, or they are worthless, and it should not actually stand the test of time. You know that people who hold contrary political views to you would not necessarily remain in Cameroon if they really had to express themselves to a certain extent. We can talk about the Agbobalas who have been in prison. We can talk about many others. So it's absurd to say, let's look at people who are brothers as
okay.
people who have failed to survive.
Okay.
And one thing, Javis.
Briefly, so that let's get back to Mr. Ngalah. You know, we have not had briefly. So that let's get back to Mr. Ngalah. We have not had him for a long, and we are slowly coming towards.
Okay, thank you. One thing I want to highlight here about universities is the current Amazonian war stemmed out of education, and out of education because some people took their time and researched the right history of the Southern Cameroons. When they put it on paper, people read it, and people knew where they were coming from and where they're supposed to be going to. And because people do not want to respect the historical history of the Southern Cameroons and the educational value of the Southern Cameroons, that is where we are. That's where we are today. Thank you, Javis.
All those of you watching us want to say happy Sunday to you from the different parts of the world. Senior Mr. Ngalah, are you there with us?
Yeah, I'm right here. I'm listening.
What should be the way forward in terms of what should be the way forward in terms of the functionality now of these 3-state universities? The head of state just did an announcement that he has announced the creation now. If you are talking to the head of state, assuming that the head of state, not assuming because the head of state and his people are watching the program, what will be your advice in terms of how these 3 universities should be structured in such a way that it meets the aspiration that you so want?
Okay. Thank you for your question, right? To be honest with you, to be very candid with you, I think do you hear me?
I get you.
Yeah. So to be very candid with you and to be very honest with you, I don't think I will have anything to talk with this government in place. To be very honest, because if some people have been in power for 70 years and they are not able to do anything, because Tah Javis, when you are in Europe, when you are here, right, and then you see your sister walking on the road. She's 12 years old. She's walking on the road with a tray on her head that is in diameter 30 centimeters long, with some groundnuts in it. That's not up to €1, right? And you have this government sitting there in place, and we are in the 21st century. Number one. Number two, you see the hospitals, right? You see the hospital, the states of the hospital. You go into some hospitals, you see flies everywhere. I don't want to go into details about that. Then you go into the educational system, you see children sitting on stones in the north, and a teacher placing, like nailing a blackboard on a tree, and they're sitting under the tree and studying. And the whole wide world is watching that on the internet, on YouTube. And that is my country. You have students, you still have in the 21st century, children walking kilometers to go to school. What want you to talk about? Because now it will just be like throwing water on the deck's back.
But the head of state, maybe the head of state actually wants a change and wants goodwill Cameroonians like you to give him proposals. That no matter how state the head of state may have been, but there's always room for proposals.
If the head of states want goodwill Cameroon, because what I want is I want a government that succeeds, that wins. I have a child here.
So we have one of the best universities in Cameroon for all. We do this for all for all who do university training, university in Cameroon are trained the citizens how to remember and how not to be productive, producing doctors in letters, and even medical doctors who are unable to produce a single drug can save a soul. You know, maybe Cameroon, you are responsible for your own opinion. Senior Barrister, I want us to move briefly to the second part of this. The head of state promised to curb embezzlement.
Yes, before I land there, it's very important. We should understand that the Western world has been developing itself for donkey years, and those guys stayed in their country to fight for what they want. They never ran and came to Africa or to Eastern Europe to wait for some other people to fight for them to change the system the way they like. So if you want Cameroon to be something better, come here and let's fight it here and make it better, because everybody wants Cameroon to be the best place to live in. Don't stay somewhere and with a microscope and try to teach us how we should do it. Come here and do it. Okay. We'll respect you. But coming to the topic.
Embezzlement.
You know, embezzlement is the misappropriation of state property or state funds. For the past 10 years, we've witnessed a series of high officials being sent to jail for embezzlement, and the process is ongoing. The only thing I see as a problem is the fact that we've not been capable of handling the issue of corruption. Corruption is still very rife, and it's very difficult to handle the constitution. Those are two ills of society which are very difficult to eradicate. And to eradicate them, you have to be very careful the way you go about it, because it may destroy the society. There are ills, yes, but how do you stop it? When it becomes a farmyard for some people, a farmyard for some decision makers, a farmyard for some responsible people, how do you stop it?
So people are worried.
So the head of state has said, look, he has said on embezzlement, I'm added corruption. It means he's going to do a lot of emphasis on how to tackle corruption. This coming to the 2022. And to do that, there's so much that has to be done. There's so much reform in the system that has to be done, especially when it comes to how to handle decision making. Because corruption stems from decision making at every level. If somebody has a signature and has to sign something that which you're interested in or you want to have at all costs, you'll be forced to give him a bribe.
Will you agree with this?
So it is high time.
Will you agree with this school of thought who says that the head of state is acting late? That they have clamored for AFCON since it was announced in 2020. People have embezzled money. COVID gate came. Bags of rice disappeared that were given to Cameroonians prior to 2020 during the period of COVID-19. That the head of state is almost acting late.
You know, in a country like the US, to sentence somebody who has been accused of having killed the wife takes about 2 years, which means when it comes to very serious ills of society, you have to be very patient the way you tackle it.
Is it not the same US because that you are comparing Cameroon now too, that you said they should not compare Cameroon?
No, what I'm saying is that it is normal that those things take their time. Don't act with a lot of precipitation, because they say it is better to free 99 thieves than to jail one innocent person. So it means that you have to take your time, you tackle it in such a way that it doesn't hurt an innocent person. Because you see, it's easy to accuse somebody, but how do you prove it? How do you establish it? You need to go methodologically, you do investigation, you get irrebuttable proof before you can do presentation and say, look, this man is guilty of something, for him to be sentenced by a judge. Don't be surprised that you see somebody being accused of all the ills in the world, but when it comes to court, he's released.
He has a right of innocence, presumption of innocence.
You accuse the judges of having taken a bribe. Meanwhile, the case was empty. The case filed, they had done the case filed. I remember a case, I remember a judge, I always talk about him. It's called Shilik. The guy who handled the elections for Fekafoot. There was a matter that he had pressure to sentence some people. He said, look, the FI is empty, I can't do that. I refuse. Those are judges. So there are judges, we have those type of judges in Cameroon, so many of them who are ready to stand their sword for the truth. But you see, if you refuse to sentence that person comes out free. You and me will start saying he's corrupt. Meanwhile, the problem was that the file was not well built. There were no proofs. You cannot say so he's a thief without showing out what he has stolen and things like that.
Okay. Some Derick, corruption. President Biya talked about this aspect of corruption, and people of your like have been stating that more emphasis should be based on those who have siphoned state funds.
People like Operation
Sparrowhawk,
Konak, they are the hunters who are becoming more the most hunted. And there is a lot of selective punishment. We only punish those because, you know, what happened to the Limbe scandal of billions of francs? What happened to the Limbe scandal? It just died like that. And when you notice something about embezzlement in Cameroon is that we don't have the checks and balances.
So in essence, what are you saying?
Yes, I'm saying that the government lacks checks and balances. How do you explain that the director in charge of perhaps salaries, we have 2,601 fake accounts that have been managed for 10 years, meaning that on an average there should be at least 1.8 billion entering every month into his account. And it was managed for 10 years and nobody took notice of it. Javis, that 180 billion which was sent to Cameroon to fight the COVID-19 pandemic ended up in private pockets.
But that is why the head of state says he wants to.
Javis, we should have started that. This have been our finding. 10 years is too a long time to embezzle money and sit quietly. And Javis, let me be sincere with you. The more you think this delayance, I think somebody who is at his 50s, 60s, knowing that it's going to take a whole 10 years to lock him up. At 60, he's waiting for 10 years to be 70, as the Bible says. Someone lives 70. He embezzles the money and keeps for his children. It will be another form of occultism, where people decide to embezzle money and then get locked up. Because there are no checks and balances. We know of the Minister of Defense who is in prison. How much was being embezzled? How do we explain that in running a budget, 1 billion is embezzled and nobody knows? Javis, please let me land. 1 billion is embezzled and no alarm is set. Until somebody will be locked up for embezzling 95 billion. How possible?
You must have proof before you can arrest that person. You
How possible?
You keep talking about presumption of innocence.
No,
that it must
Javis,
be sequential.
The idea,
irrefutable fact
the issue
before
is
you arrest that
just
person.
Just like the president has said, and the barrister has hailed him, that is good to be at least 5 decades patient before change comes. I don't understand why, as at now, the president has not told us that AFCON money, the 2019 AFCON money, this is what went wrong and these are the people in charge of it. I don't understand why till now the COVID-19 180 billion is not being handled and some people are comfortable with it, and then there is still a cry that stops him from taking sanctions. I'm just saying one example of the AFCON budget.
Okay.
What stops him from saying that from the finding this was not executed because of these people? Let the people be accounted for. What stops him from the COVID gate scandal? He should come and tell us that from investigation we have found out this, or from the reports we have found out this, and the people should be punished.
It's easy. Let me interject something. You know, in Cameroon, they punish embezzlement. You have a period of 20 years to punish whoever embezzles.
Okay.
So why do you want action to be precipitated when there's time to do?
Of course,
by the text.
That's why we should embezzle for 20 years.
Why
do you want the president to respect the law?
I want to thank you, all those of you watching us. Those of you watching us on Facebook, Richard Fondong, want to say happy Sunday to you, and all those of you commenting on Facebook that Javis is a CPDM journalist. I appreciate your comment, and we must understand that journalism comes with responsibility and knowing what to say and how the system works. And also, if you want to be a panelist,
Biya said this, and Barrister just repeated that on the panel. So it's a policy by some people, especially those who benefit from the corruption, to make it sound like it's very difficult to find the evidence in corruption, right? And when a system makes corruption a policy, it is not for an unknown reason. It happens this way. I let you steal the money. I know you have stolen the money, and then you cannot oppose me tomorrow, because if you oppose me tomorrow, I pull out the file and say, okay, gentleman, lady, this is what you did yesterday. Do you know that?
That's so easy.
And that is the policy, and that is how it operates.
So you are saying that they are keeping it as a political weapon. So what you are saying is that those who may be prosecuted in the days ahead are people whom the head of state is afraid that they may want to challenge him with the money.
Javis, I wouldn't draw that conclusion. You have said it yourself. And one other thing is, those who do not hold that power to manage the money, what do? They are on this other side, and they become contractors. They start having files that are sponsored by those people in power, and they benefit from that corruption. Meaning private individuals who are in liberal professions, who do things, who are contractors, also participate in that corruption. We heard somebody say a bag of cement was 16,000 francs CFA. And we know people who have also taken files on certain cases or on certain issues because of their allegiance to a particular political party or their connections with the people out there who manage that money. One other thing I would just want to say is that I appreciate Barrister so much for actually mentioning a good example from the United States. The 2 years that people take in order to come out to judgment in murder cases is because there is a lot of judicial processing going on, discovery, investigations, a lot of gathering of information about the case. Unlike the situation where investigators do the investigation, gather all the information, prepare reports, and then send it to an executive officer. And then the executive officer, who is the head of state, he sits on it. That is where the problem is. Why should state prosecutors at all levels not be empowered to bring up cases against corruption? Why must it only be enshrined in the law that the head of state is the one to bring in cases against corruption?
There's no law like that.
Or the Minister of Justice?
There's just
Why?
no law like that.
Why can the state prosecutor of Mfundi not identify those he suspects have embezzled money from the COVID and bring charges against them in court? Why must it be that high-ranking political officer? Because in an institutionalized corruption system, corruption is well changed. It's a mafia, and many people are involved. So, and Barrister rightly said it, if you tackle corruption in a particular kind of a way, the society is going to break down. Not breaking down for good, but because those who have embezzled the money, and they can actually sponsor a rebellion against you. Okay. And sometimes embezzlement is not only geared at stealing the money and using it, but planning for the future. Okay. Some of these guys, they have money somewhere that they can use the money in the future to do whatever thing they want to do to remain in power. And that is one other key fundamental thing we must remember. Corruption flourishes where people want to remain in power because they must protect themselves. And they have agents like us out here defending them. It's very difficult.
Happy New Year to everyone in the studio. Thanks for the program. The creation of 3 state universities is news at all. We need this. We need the industries, reduction of taxes on enterprises or businesses in order to improve the economic condition. Consilia Agbo watching from Extreme North. Max from Germany says, hello Javis, Happy New Year. Please, Barrister should accept that even in the diaspora, some can love Cameroon. Thank you very much. Before we move to Mr. Ngalah, last week we announced here on House of Commons that the program in itself, the crew and the panelists intend to visit some internally displaced persons as part of our own end of year festivity or our own new year to see how those who are living in deplorable conditions and to assist them in 1 or 2 ways that we can. And so we launched an appeal, and we are happy that we received contributions from Max from Germany and some other viewers. If you want to support the initiative, which we will officially do it this January, please, you can do us a favor by contributing on the numbers that you see on your screen. Send us your support, or you have a resources or something tangible that you want us to give to an IDP. Some of you have bags of rice and other things that you may want us to give to some of those IDPs living in deplorable condition in Pekawit. Please do feel free to do so. The numbers are on your screen. You can contact me if you
very much, Mr. Javis. But I just want to make one point before I go into your topic. I had I listened to the president, to Mr. Forba's speech, and I heard him condemn the atrocities that happened in Kono Titi. That was great. But I didn't hear the president mention a single thing about the military atrocities or the gendarmes killing of those 2 kids. That is that really there. Then I want to tell Mr. Archu that I really love, because he's the, if we look at the man, he's really somebody who is kind. He's a kind-hearted man. But I want to tell him that before he thinks of inviting us to come back, they should stop the massive immigration of Cameroonians that are living in that country right now. If you go and check the embassies, the application for visas is heartbreaking. It's overwhelming. So they should stop those that are living, then they can invite us to come back. So to your question right now, about corruption, about the president saying that he's trying to fight corruption. Okay, Mr. Javis, listen to this. From 1962 if you go back from 1962, you track the Cameroonian financial system. The total, that's the total expenditure in the GDP and the total revenue in the GDP, right? If you try to track it down, you see that from 1962 to I think 1982, the total revenue was always higher than the total expenditure in the GDP, right? Then from 1984, the total revenue, the total expenditure was completely higher than the total revenue in the GDP. So, like, if you take, for example, like 1992, right, the total expenditure was 571.8 points, as compared to the total revenue, which was 471.85, right? That is a difference of 100 points. So if you are a government, and this difference continues to increase till today. So if you are a government that's always signing out money from the GDP, and you see that this expenditure is always greater than the revenue. I mean, if you are somebody who has a brain, you see yourself and ask yourself, what's going on? What's happening? So you see that this government has been mute about all of these things. And so talking about fighting corruption today is like, I mean, it's like somebody planning to cross Mount Everest wearing shorts with no shoes and a t-shirt. That's what he's trying to do. So if we are being naive, we think that they are really trying to do something, but they're not doing anything. Secondly, they have put people in prison for corruption. Where is the money?
Okay.
Where is the money? There is no money from those people. So, and then Mr. Archu said that it takes 20 years to punish somebody for embezzlement. That's like we should put that in Guinness Book of Record, because you get some small person that took 1,000 francs on the street, you beat him up, you put him up in jail for 5 years. And somebody who is embezzled, you have to take 20 years to sort out the embezzlement. So it's to me, I don't see anything coming out good out of this. That's my point. There's no genuinity in it.
We are out of time. I've just been informed by the producer that we are out of time. Before we take leave of you, Mr. Ngalah, your last word briefly.
My last word is that no matter what is going on, this country is a great country. This is not like this is a hard backbone country, and this country will never go down, no matter the sufferings, no matter the bad blood that is going on. This country will survive. Okay. It will survive.
Okay.
So people should have hope. Don't break down. Don't break down. No matter the difficulties.
Okay.
Don't break down, my countrymen and countrywomen. You will go through this.
Thank you.
You will survive.
Ms. Ngalim, your last word briefly before we go. We are out of time.
Yeah, thank you, Javis. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks to the rest of the panelists. And I think my last word is I'm wishing everyone a happy new year, and wishing that every listener, every viewer becomes very critical and analyzes issues very well, and stop demonizing those who don't agree with them.
Thank you very much, Derick, for coming.
Thank you very much, Javis, for the confidence entrusted in me, and to Cameroonians. We love our country, and most often when we want to speak the truth, people think we are unpatriotic. To the President too of the Republic, who has promised to crack down on separatists, we pray that you should call also the military to book to stop burning down houses.
Okay.
It's not a fair one for all of us, because we expect that as the separatists drop their arms, we should be able to go back home.
Senior Barrister Archu Julius, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much, Javis, for inviting me. I'm happy to be here with my friend, Mr. Song, and Mr. Ngalah and Mr. Ngalim. We've talked very well, like Cameroonians. I will pray, as the president said, let's learn to be.
Is that stay out of trouble as we see how things will move. May God bless you. My name is Tah Mai Javis from Cameroon's economic capital, Douala, Fengudong, Bange. Bye-bye.